Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. It's your girl Carla Renata. So if this is your first time joining me, give me a big thumbs up to let me know that you were here. Click that bell for notifications if you were on the YouTube, and welcome back, baby. I have been a moderating fool, and last week was no different. I spent last night actually moderating a conversation about Luther Never Too Much, the documentary that is coming and on CNN Films. And pictured in that photo with me is Miss Paulette McWilliams. She sang background for Luther for years. And if you didn't know it, he had some pit singers and he had singers that were on stage. And I've talked about those people all the time. But I do have an interview today with one of his main lead background singers, Fonzie Thornton, one of his arrangers, friends, and I think he played bass, and co-writer Marcus Miller, and the director of Luther Never Too Much, Miss Dawn Porter. I also did a moderating conversation for Film Independent. I love them and they love me too. For a film called La Cocina. It's directed by Alonso Reese Palicio, who is pictured right next to me, and next to him is Ana Diaz, who is one of the leads in the film. It's a great movie. Y'all should see it. It's called La Cocina. And then I hopped on over and did a junket for Cross. And like I said, Luther, Never Too Much, with these beautiful people. Marcus Miller is on the right, Dawn Porter is in the middle, and Fonzie Thornton is on the left. So let's get into it, shall we? But before I get into those interviews, I want to talk about a movie that I saw on Netflix called Don't Move. It's a crazy, I love my thrillers. I love my thrillers, honey. And this one is no different. This movie is now streaming on Netflix. It's directed by Adam Schindler and Brian Netto. It stars Finn Whitrock and Kelsey Asbiel, who is pictured in that photo. And the gist of this is when a killer injects her, the killer being Finn, injects her, being Iris, with a paralytic agent, she has to run, fight, and hide before her body completely shuts down. Now, what I will tell you about this film is that it's slow. The pacing is super, 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 super slow. But what is fascinating is watching Kelsey's acting in it, because she spends 3/4 of this film not talking and just using her face, because she's paralyzed. She can't move her hands. She can't talk. She can't move her legs, and her legs and her hands are tied with zip ties. The acting is superb between her and Finn, and the majority of the film is between the two of them. Um, there's a line that they say where, what do they say? This is broken doesn't, something about being broken. I forget what it is now. I should have wrote it down. See, I knew I should have wrote it down. But um, if you like thrillers, if you like mysteries, you'll love this for that reason. It is slow though. The pacing is super, 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 super slow. And for that reason, some people might be like, you know what, enough of this, I'm done. Again, the film is called Don't Move and is streaming on Netflix. Coming soon is Heretic. I told you guys about this with Hugh Grant. It's a Focus Features joint. It's directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, and it's about two missionaries who become ensnared in a deadly game of cat and mouse when they knock on the door of a diabolical Mr. Reed, played by Mr. Hugh Grant. They end up being trapped in his home, and they have to turn to their faith if they want to make it out alive. Honey, I saw this at the Toronto International Film Festival and it wore me out. It is so, 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 so good. I highly suggest checking it out when it hits theaters on May 8th. Also hitting theaters soon is The Piano Lesson, with Danielle Deadweiler. You guys might remember that face from Till. She's in The Piano Lesson, which is an August Wilson play that has been adapted for the big screen by Malcolm Washington. If that last name sounds familiar, he is the son of Denzel Washington, and his other son, John David Washington, stars in the film. John David also did the play on Broadway with Samuel L. Jackson and Danielle Brooks. And the play was directed by LaTanya Richardson Jackson, which is Sam Jackson's wife. Y'all with me so far? Good. Okay. And this is the piano in question. You can't really see it in this photograph, but the piano in question is carved into the faces of the ancestors for this particular family, which is the Charles family. That's also going to drop on November 8th. If I said October 8th, I meant November 8th. And when I come back next week, I'm going to talk about Blitz with my girl Saoirse Ronan. And you know what's coming. You know what's coming, y'all. Wicked, honey, with my girl Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Ariana Grande. I have been approved to speak to damn near everybody associated with the film. So I will have that for you in a couple of weeks, but I just want to make sure that you are with me thus far. All right, so let's get into this Aldis Hodge and Isaiah Mustafa series called Cross. Now, if you're not familiar with Cross, oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. If you're not familiar with Cross, Cross is a character that was created by James Patterson. He's a character that was created by James Patterson, and the first Alex Cross book was published in 1993, and there have been 31 additional novels in the series. 31 additional novels in the Alex Cross series, as well as 2 novellas and 3 books centered on Alex's son. The Cross character has been featured in 3 feature films: Kiss the Girls, Along Came a Spider with Morgan Freeman in the roles of Alex Cross, and then there was one in 2012 with Tyler Perry in the role of Alex Cross. But this time it's being played by Aldis Hodge, and he is a decorated DC homicide detective and forensic psychologist facing a sadistic serial killer. His partner, John Sampson, Isaiah Mustafa, tracks his killer, and a threat from Cross's past appears with ill intent. Baby, I binged this. My brother and I watched this together, and we binged this in one sitting. We were like, "Oh, we just gonna watch a couple of episodes today, and then we'll catch it again tomorrow." Child, when we started watching it, it was daylight outside, and by the time we finished, it was pitch black. That's how good it is. But without further ado, I'm gonna let them tell you more about it. So here's an interview with Isaiah Mustafa and Alex Cross. And Aldis Hodge, who plays Alex Cross.
Hey, brother.
All right, look, we finally got that interview happening.
Yeah. Listen, Aldis, because I'm like, anyway, I love you for that. Thank you. I appreciate you. So let me just start it out by saying I just love that a brother from the DC universe and the Old Spice commercials have now come into the world of James Patterson. How'd y'all get here?
We got here because of Ben Watkins.
Yeah. Ben Watkins put us together.
That brother just saw it. He saw the path and he went at it. He's brilliant.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Were you guys James Patterson fans before jumping into Cross?
I'll tell you, I knew of the work. Obviously knew Alex Cross is worldwide household name, but I hadn't jumped into the books until after we had finished shooting, but when I came into this, I talked to Ben first about his ideas and his vision, and then I talked to James Patterson about how he created the character, what motivated him, and when I understood the foundation of what really built this character from his mind, I became an even bigger fan. So it's awesome. And since having started to read the books, they are great. I understand why I sold over 100 million copies.
I was going to say, you got to give respect to anybody who writes a book or a series of books that sell over 100 million copies.
Books.
I mean,
his books are fabulous. I'm a huge fan of his work, so I was very excited for this series to come to the small screen because I've seen it on the big screen and I've seen all the other adaptations. So I was like, yay! And this was so good, y'all.
Did you see all 8 episodes?
Oh, but I did.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I did. And I'm not going to talk about anything that has to do with the show because I don't want to spoil it for nobody. But baby, y'all did that, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Y'all did
Okay.
that thing right there. Have you been converted into a true crime groupie? Because I am totally a true crime groupie, as you can tell. Have y'all been converted?
I mean, I was already one before I started the show. I've been
What
here.
about you?
Yeah.
What about you, Isaiah?
Yeah, I was into true crime. I just, like for a while there, like it wasn't cool to be like into true crime. You know what I mean? It was cool to be into like, Marvel or Star Wars or something. But now we're trying to make sure that people like get into this and just go like, man, like this world is amazing. Like they want to come back at like episode after episode.
Yes, it was addicting. My brother and I, we watched it together and we binged it in one day. We were like, oh, we're going to come back tomorrow. And then we're like, no, we want to see what's going to happen on the next episode. And the next thing we knew, it was dark. We were a hot mess. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. Speaking of true crime, we have that Menendez case going on right now. Do you have any thoughts about that after inhabiting these roles? Do you have like a little bit more of a sense of, how you feel about that case prior to taking on these parts?
I'd have to educate myself because I remember back in the day when it was going on, we caught all the smoke from the news and everything like that. And I just thought it was a wild case.
Yeah.
We have not had time to dive into anything outside of Cross because we've been hustling and working. We just finished shooting season 2.
Yeah.
We doing this press store getting it. But when I get a little downtime, I'm going to catch up because I'm interested to see how they approached that narrative, especially being how it seems how we already know so much, but what are the things that we don't know about it? I think that's interesting. And, I don't know, that kind of feeds my psyche the way that, just to bring it back, the way they roll with Cross and understanding the mindset of the killer.
Right.
And that's, to me, the most interesting dynamic and part of the experience is understanding how they think, what's normal and regular for them, and then how do you oppose that,
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in season 2 for you all. We just going to put it out. Y'all said you're doing a season 2. Did I hear you say that?
We already shot it.
And it's wrapped.
So Amazon picked us up. They had so much faith in us that they picked us up for season 2 before we even aired. Obviously, before we aired the first season, before we even aired the trailer for the first season, they caught dailies and they were like, "Nah, this is the go." So we were really, really grateful and thankful for that. So yeah, season 2 is in the can. Man. You want to know what happened? I can't tell you.
Want to tell me?
Well,
y'all, that is my time. Why you do me like that at the end of the interview?
I'm just saying.
That's my time. I appreciate you both so very much. Thank you for giving me a slice of your time today. It doesn't go unnoticed or unwanted. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
When I tell you I have been trying to get this interview with Aldis Hodge for like 5,000 years, I kid you not. So thank you, Aldis, for finally obliging and entertaining me, sister. I really do appreciate it. I can't get this light together, y'all. I don't know what's going on. Oh, there we go. Because I was like, what is happening? I'm looking a little Casper-ish. Anyway, so yes, that is Cross on Prime Video. It drops on 11/14 November. I keep wanting to say October because I think we just came out of October. So I keep wanting to say October, but it's November. It drops on November 14th. And it stars Aldis Hodge and Isaiah Mustafa. Y'all are going to love this show. Love it, love it, love it, love it. I also want to tell you about another film that's going to drop on November 8th. It's called Small Things Like These. And it stars, if you saw Oppenheimer last year, the guy that starred in Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy, is producing and starring in this film. And it's dealing with, and it's based on a book, ironically enough. I found out that it was based on a 2021 novel by Claire Keegan. And the film has been adapted from that book. So in 1985, Bill Furlong, played by Murphy, is a devoted father, and he uncovers disturbing secrets at a local convent. As he investigates, he discovers shocking truths about his own past and life. I was fascinated by this film because there's another film that's out called Conclave. I think the signal went out for a minute. There's another film that's out called Conclave, and it also is dealing with indiscretions of the church. And so I was fascinated by that because at some point during my childhood, we were converted from Kojic to Catholicism. and I'm now Buddhist. I know that's a whole nother story. But I was fascinated by the fact that these young ladies would go to this convent because they were, with child, and they're a lot of times back in that day, and even further back than that. A lot of times when families didn't want the neighborhood or people around them in their circle to know that their daughters were pregnant, they would send them away until they had the baby, and they would let the babies get adopted. And so when I saw that this was the premise of the film, I really wanted to watch it, but I had no idea it was as crazy as it is. There's some crazy stuff that happens in this film, but Murphy is really meticulous and artful about his acting roles, and this one is no different. It's a fascinating film, and it's superbly shot and directed and acted. So when you see it come up, it's called Small Things Like These. Please check it out. It's so, so good. It really, really is. Last but not least, y'all, we're going to talk about Mr. Luther Vandross. Now, everybody loves some Luther. I don't know any. I heard somebody in the document, it was either in the documentary or maybe in the interview. I can't remember where I heard somebody say this, but when you ask somebody how they feel about, there's some artists where you ask, how you feel about so and so, they're like, they cool, but I can't get down with them. You ain't never heard nobody say that about Luther Vandross. When the name Luther Vandross pops up, everybody's like, "Oh, that's my boy." What I find fascinating about Luther is that most of his career, his recordings were rearrangements of remakes of other artists like Dionne Warwick, The Carpenters, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, and they talk about it in the film. They meaning Marcus Miller, Fonzie Thornton, and the director Don Porter. So I'll let them tell you more about it. So take a look and listen to this interview with those three people about the documentary on CNN Films. Luther, Never Too Much.
What I really wanted to do is have like these gentlemen, his family, like people who worked with him. There's something different about a storyteller who has known a person, intimately, and that they can really kind of help you, because what you want to do is understand, where does this come from? And I think a lot of people think if you're a singer, you just kind of open your mouth and that happens. And like that is not the case. There's so much work that goes into making it look effortless. And I wanted to like let these gentlemen and Robin and Carlos and I wanted them to help us understand what we were seeing. And then the last thing I'll say about that is I'm not a musician. And so music seems like alchemy to me. Like how does it come from your brain out into the world? And so one of the things that they help us do is understand that, there's still some magic to it, but I hope we understand it a little bit more.
I love that. Marcus, just to close it out, I know you collaborated with him on a lot of his songs, and Luther was mostly known for doing remakes of a lot of really famous songs, most of them Carpenter's songs, which was actually kind of funny to me. Can you speak to how you guys collaborated to come up with those very unique arrangements of those songs?
Well, there are a couple of elements. One is that Luther loved music and he loved old songs. And he was a genius at picking older songs that had been done already that had nothing to do with his style of music, but transforming it into something where you couldn't imagine him not singing. I mean, how many artists do you know who will do somebody else's song, and then as time goes by, the majority of people in the world know the remake better than they know the original song, right?
Right.
You mentioned the Carpenters. He did songs by Dionne Warwick. He did songs.
A House Is Not a Home. Yes.
Not a Home. He did Donny Hathaway songs. He did Stevie Wonder songs. Creep, 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 creep. So I don't know how he did it, but he just knew his voice. He knew how he could transform stuff. The other element is the guy who played piano for him since they were teenagers, Nat Adderley Jr. And Nat Adderley Jr. is Cannonball Adderley's nephew. You heard of Cannonball Adderley?
Oh yes, I'm old enough to remember Cannonball Adderley. I may not look it.
No, I would never guess. But Luther would say, Nat, I have an idea for this song, and this is how I like to do it. And Nat was just, a lot of singers have their accompaniment, their person who just knows their voice. And Nat was that guy for Luther. And together they would come up with some magic, and Nat would arrange the strings. And then, we come in the studio and say, okay, what are we doing now? What magic are we going to create now? I'll just tell you, you mentioned the Carpenters. By the time we recorded the Superstar.
Yeah.
By the time we recorded that, Luther was already big, right? So there was no question that everybody was going to get to hear this, right? So I'm sitting there playing the bass, and this is old school. This is the singer comes in 3 weeks after the music has been prepared and spends a week singing it. No, this is all of us in the studio with Luther in the booth right there singing along with us. And I'm saying to myself, Marcus, don't mess this up, because you're going to be hearing this for the rest of your life. As he's singing, I'm saying, okay, this is one time I know I was playing on a hit record that I was going to hear for the rest of my life. That's how magical he was. And, there's a certain part towards the end of the song where you think it's going to end, and he dives into his famous Luther thing that where instead of ending, it goes into this thing where all the ladies in the audience start screaming,
Yes, we know that part very well.
And he wanted us to keep it real simple, right? Got a bunch of jazz guys in the band. He didn't want us starting to play riffs and just ruining the mood. So what did he say? Keep it right there, keep it right there. He was telling us, play it easy. Play it easy, keep it right there. He's talking to us, right?
Oh wow, that's some good intel. I did not know that.
You know what I'm saying? And then when they mixed it, I assumed, well, he's gonna turn his microphone off for the mix because he's just giving us instructions. It sounded beautiful. It didn't sound the same without it. And that ended up being part of the record, right?
That is one of my favorite parts of the movie because we were, Marcus told us that story, and then we were able to cut to Luther saying, play it easy, keep it right there. Don't jazz this thing up, which I love. And the other thing, I love seeing this movie with an audience because first of all, Marcus sets it up so beautifully. He was like, I know not to question you, but I got to see how this is going to work, So, and then we found this gorgeous footage of Luther singing it. And literally, when you're watching it with the audience, everyone gets quiet. And then the whole song plays out. And then Marcus tells that end. And then we see Luther do that. And then we, boom, cut to just Luther doing it, which is to me, it just is like a cherry on top. And people clap like they're at a concert. And this movie is so fun to watch with people and how they respond and they remember. And that's an artist, who could take that and honor the first song, completely honor it, but make it his own in this honorable way. So
absolutely. I mean, I was there. I was singing and clapping right along with him. I remember it was amazing. I just want to close it out with one last thing with Fonzie. Fonzie, what is the most prolific memory or something that, not memory, what is the funniest thing that ever happened with y'all on tour that you can remember that when you think about it now just makes you smile and crack all the way up?
Well, one time Luther was singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. And, Luther grew up in my house. He knew my sisters and my mother, everybody knew him. So he invited me and my sister Pamela to go to New Orleans with him while he was doing the Super Bowl to sing the national anthem. And my oldest sister lived there also in New Orleans. So we're riding around in this limousine and we're going to different grocery stores and stuff like that. And people keep knocking on the window saying, Luther, give me a kiss, Luther, blah, 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 blah. And we're trying to figure out, how do people know that Luther is in this car when the windows are all tinted and stuff like that? Well, the man who's driving the car forgot to take the card out of the window that says Luther Vandross. So we're driving all through New Orleans with this sign, Luther Vandross, in these tinted windows, and women knocking on the door. Luther, I want a kiss. You know what I'm saying? When we get out of the car and go into the convenience store at the gas station, we see the placard in the window. So Luther gets back in the car saying, somebody's going to be losing their job tonight.
That is hysterical.
Man, he was the funniest man you ever wanted. I mean, come on, just amazing.
I love that. I think that is the perfect way for us to end, telling a wonderfully hysterical story about someone that we all love and thought we knew, but now we know even better thanks to Dawn. and this prolific, wonderfully wrapped up gift that is Luther. Never too much. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Fonzie. And Dawn, I'll see you sooner than later.
I love you, Carla. Thank you so much. It's so great to see you.
I love you, Black. Great to see you too.
All right, thanks, Carla.
Bye, y'all.
I absolutely had the best time talking to them. That is a snippet of the conversation that we did. We talked for a good 15, 20 minutes. They told me more stories. It was hilarious. But I love that Dawn did this in conjunction with CNN Films, OWN, and Foxhole Productions, which is Jamie Foxx's company. And you see Jamie do some talking head stuff in the film and telling some funny stories of his own. All right. So just to recap, y'all, let me say that I am suggesting that you see Small Things Like These. It is a Lionsgate movie that is going to be in theaters on November 11th. Check out Luther Never Too Much. It will be streaming. It is in theaters and it will be streaming on CNN Films. Don't Move is currently streaming on Netflix. Heretic is coming to theaters on November 8th. Check out The Piano Lesson, which is also coming to theaters on November 8th. I may or may not have something dropping about The Piano Lesson on RogerEbert.com. I did an interview with the cast there, and I think they were waiting until release to release that interview. So, yeah, be looking for that. Also, check out La Cocina, which is in theaters right now. It is a beautifully crafted film. It's in black and white, and there's some really stellar directing being done in that film. When I come back in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have Blitz, and we're also going to have the entire cast and crew from Wicked. We're also going to be talking about Gladiator 2 in the coming weeks. We're going to be talking about a documentary that I talked about a long time ago called Never Look Away, about Margaret Moth. I mentioned that documentary when I spoke to Kate Winslet about Lee. The Seed of the Sacred Fig I've already talked about because it was at the AFI Fest. September 5th was also at numerous festivals, and I've talked about that as well. Moana 2 is coming up, Porcelain War, and a film called Queer, which I'm hearing through the grapevine is garnering Oscar buzz for Daniel Craig. All right, y'all. So that is it for this edition of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. Until the next time, love, peace, and hair grease. And thank you so much for popping by, whether you're here in real time or not. And let me just say, happy belated birthday to Brandon, because he had a great birthday last week. Yay, Brandon. Happy birthday. And thank you for popping in. I appreciate everybody who watches this in real time or stops in after the fact. Click the bell for notifications if you are on YouTube, if you're watching this via Facebook Live, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this via Twitter or Instagram. Thank you so much. I so appreciate everything that y'all do for me. And yeah, so until the next time, y'all, love, peace, and hair grease, and deuces.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease. Love, peace.